People are leaving, lawsuits are mounting, charitable status is being revoked, funding is being revoked. Is this the end of Jehovah's Witnesses? Let's get into it. There's no doubt in my mind that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses is in a death spiral. 2 out of 3 people that are born into the religion in the United States leave when they become adults. I have no doubt that that's similar in other Western industrialized countries. There's no telling how many people that Watchtower counts as members, as Jehovah's Witnesses, are actually PMO, physically in, but mentally out. They're there because they don't want to get shunned by their family, but they don't really believe any of it. There's massive amounts of outflows of capital from the Watchtower due to lawsuits. They've lost their charitable status in some countries. Funding has been revoked in some countries. With membership down in countries that have money and only up in countries that are poorer, you're getting less and less inflow on the financial side for Watchtower. And that means that Watchtower has to do things like flip kingdom halls, consolidate kingdom halls in order to make ends meet. But that can only go on for so long. So does this signal that the end of the Watchtower is coming soon? Well, let me not do what Watchtower has always done and make unverifiable false predictions about the future. But what I am going to do is talk about everything that's happening in the organization that in my mind just shows, yeah, of course, it's inevitably going to end at some point. This cannot go on forever. Now, the first thing I want to discuss is Watchtower's claims of having 8 million members, which I do not believe for 1 second. That's my opinion. You can believe their service report figures if you want to, but I don't. Now, here's why I don't. First of all, let's get back to the PMOs, the physically in, mentally out individuals. We have no idea how many there are who are only there so they don't get shunned by their family. And in order to be counted as an active member of Jehovah's Witnesses, all you have to do is have clocked some time in the ministry up until last fall when they had the annual meeting, when the time clocking requirement was removed, meaning you no longer had to keep count how many hours you were in the ministry, how many magazines you published, how many videos you showed, how many Bible studies you have. That's gone now. Now all you do is check a box that said that you engaged in the ministry, and you turn that in each month. What does that mean? Well, that means that for the people who are PMO, it's way easier to just lie. All right, I'll check the box, turn it in, but I'm not actually going to do anything. And it also means that for people who were trying to get out in service to meet the requirements, because at least when I was in, if you weren't making 8 to 10 hours in the ministry a month, you were looked at as spiritually weak. In fact, people couldn't get baptized when I was in unless you were going out in the ministry at least that average amount of time. And so that made it more difficult to get baptized because it's a very unnatural thing to go and knock on people's doors or to engage in discussions about a subject, religion, that nobody really likes to talk about. You know, you don't discuss religion or politics, which I'm not necessarily in favor of that. I'm just saying that as a rule, people don't really like to talk about that. It's very personal. Don't go proselytize to people, especially not on a Saturday morning, banging on their door when they're trying to rest for the weekend. But the fact that that time clocking requirement is removed makes it much easier for people to feel good about being a witness, an active witness. There's no repercussions if nobody's keeping account of how much time you go out. You might be the lowest hour publisher. You may only have talked to your hairstylist for 5 minutes, but you get to check the box that you engage in the preaching work. And so now you're an active witness. People are wonderful at rationalizing things. And this allows people who have no interest or motivation to go out in that ministry work to be able to do some little thing that lets them check that box and still feel spiritually secure in the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses. When you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, if you ever were, how many people did you have in your kingdom hall that were sorta witnesses? All right, they were sorta active, but not really. Well, we had quite a few. And this change of not clocking time is just going to raise that number even more. And now think about this. Any organization that is willing to lie under oath to courts, do you trust the numbers that they're putting out for how many active witnesses they have, knowing how much it would cause them to lose face if they admitted that their numbers were going down and not up? Businesses cook the books all the time to make it look like they have more money than they do. What makes you think that the Watchtower isn't cooking their books to make people believe they have more members than they really do? And why do you think Watchtower removed that requirement? Do you think it was out of the goodness, kindness of their heart? Well, no. The numbers were shrinking. And so in order to mask over that and make them look better, they removed the requirement. This wasn't a sudden change of heart to make things easier for people. They're bleeding members, and it's harder to mask that and cook those books if they're counting time. That is my personal opinion, and one of the reasons why I believe Watchtower is in a death spiral and dwindling quickly. Even if you believe Watchtower's numbers, where's their growth coming from? It's coming from poor countries, countries that can't afford to send in donations to the Watchtower, like the countries where they're losing people. So where is their money going to come from? It all boils down to the dollar. It really does. Watchtower needs to be able to sustain its business model because its religion is a business. They have to make a certain amount of money in order to keep up all their buildings, in order to maintain their operations, in order to pay for everything, to keep the lights on, and so on. They need money. And if their growth is only coming from places where people can't afford to give them much money, what are they going to do about that? Especially with their numbers going down in the countries where people do have better financial situations to support the Watchtower. Their end comes when they run out of money. And all signs point to them losing a lot of money, and not just from the leaving of people, but also from lawsuits, losing charitable status, losing tax exempt status, losing government funding. Now, the Watchtower can make use of their massive real estate empire to keep themselves afloat for quite some time. Watchtower owns a ton of properties all over the world. They are flipping kingdom halls. They could last for quite a while, but the fact is that shrinkage is inevitable. They are going to get smaller because they're running out of the money to maintain the operations that they have. That is my opinion. Keep in mind, this is all my opinion. I don't know for a fact this is true. I just look at the way things are now and the things that they claim and the changes that they're making, and I draw what to me are the logical conclusions of what that means. And to me, the logical conclusion is that yes, the Watchtower is in serious financial trouble right now, and that means they're in a financial death spiral, and that means that eventually they have to come to an end. All of that said, I personally believe that Jehovah's Witnesses ended a long time ago. And what I mean by that is the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses is not the same religion I grew up in. It's very different. There are lots of doctrinal changes. There are lots of cultural changes. The music alone, when I grew up, the first Kingdom Hall I went to when I was a kid, we had someone who played the piano in the Kingdom Hall, and we would sing these hymnals. Look at the old songbook. They were much more hymn-like. They were hymnals. Now it's like bad pop music or the kind of music you would hear on a terrible sitcom. It's not hymnal music anymore. So that's changed quite a lot. The Watchtower has music videos now to try to attract young people, but they're so cringy, so that's not working either. Part of the reason why 2 out of 3 people born as witnesses leave, everything about the religion, it just doesn't attract a younger generation. And you can see that they're trying to attract younger people. By this recent Watchtower article I went over about brothers, they're really trying to get young brothers to take on responsibility in the Kingdom Hall. They're practically begging them to do this. The old guard is dying out. They're aging out. And the Watchtower needs younger people to take over. But with 2 out of 3 younger people leaving, Where are these younger people going to come from? So they have serious money problems. They have serious attendance problems. They have serious leadership problems. And all of that points to their inevitable end. The literature is also very different now than when I was younger. It's much more dumbed down. I once had a Bible student. This was in the mid-90s. And keep in mind, this was in the mid-90s. I had a Bible student at the job that I worked at. And I was using one of the brochures and he looked at it. Keep in mind, this was a college student. He read the first paragraph and he said, "John, this is insulting," because it was so infantile in its approach. So he switched to the knowledge book, which was better, but eventually he saw right through it and he left. If you look at the publications of the Watchtower from the late 70s, early 80s, even into the late 80s, the reading level required to understand it was much higher. It was definitely in the upper high school level. But now the reading level to understand the literature and the articles on JW.org are somewhere in the middle school range. So they've dropped the literacy requirement way down. That makes what you're reading sound very infantile, very basic, because it is. And what does that tell you? That tells you that the Watchtower is attracting uneducated or undereducated individuals much more than it's attracting educated individuals. Because today, think about it, with the internet, if you are an educated person and someone is talking to you about their religion and you have an interest in religion, maybe you are a religious or spiritual person, what's the first thing you're probably going to do? You're probably going to go look up the religion online and see what they're all about, see what other people say about them. It's very much like shopping for a car. You're going to go read the reviews, right? You're not going to join a religion as an educated individual without reading the reviews. And what kind of reviews are you going to get if you go search for Jehovah's Witnesses online? Very overwhelmingly negative ones. You're going to find out all about how they sweep crime under the rug. You're going to find out about the shunning policy. You're going to find out about the no blood policy. You're going to find out about all the harm that it causes from all of the former members who write about this and the poor media coverage it's received over the last decade to 2 decades. That will prevent most educated people from joining the religion unless they already had some emotional attachment to it in their younger years, in which case maybe they would do so anyway. But less educated people, people who don't read very well, people who are less likely to look into things, might respond much better. And that's where Jehovah's Witnesses are getting their growth, in poor, uneducated or undereducated countries. That's a sad shame. The Watchtower is taking advantage of these people in order to grow their numbers, but they still have the severe problem of the fact that undereducated people, poorer people, can't finance the Watchtower in the way that the more educated people from countries that were wealthier could in the past, but aren't now because they're losing people there. Then there's the fact that the Watchtower has been liberalizing over the years, slowly, but they are doing it. Those cringy music videos is one way of looking at that. The fact that now they allow beards is another one. The fact that they won't shun you for having tattoos is another one. They don't look really favorably on it, but it's, you can have it if you really want to. These kind of liberalizing aspects of the Watchtower will continue. It has to, because if they don't, they're going to lose people who want to do these things. They need a majority approval of what they're doing. Otherwise, people will just leave. Well, this brings me to the question of shunning. With all the changes and all the liberalization, do you think that the Watchtower will ever stop the shunning policy in order to hang on to people? Well, my first response to that is not immediately. It's actually going to get worse before it gets better, and here's why. The Watchtower is run by narcissists. They want control. So if you're slipping down a rope, what's your first response? To grab harder to try to hang on. If you're falling, you're not going to just, oh, well, let go, let me fall. You're going to grab harder. You're going to grip tighter. That's what Watchtower is going to do. And they will double down on obey, 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 shun, shun, shun. But they'll never use the word shun because they don't want people to associate what they're doing with what other religions do. That is very obviously shunning, even though it's the same. So I don't think the Watchtower is going to end the policy immediately. And I don't personally think they're ever going to officially remove it. I think what they're going to do is once they realize that the tighter they grip, the more people they lose, they're going to slowly back off from it. Maybe not talk about it so much. Maybe when they do talk about it, not use the strong terms that they use now until little by little by little, it is effectively gone and no longer enforced. Now, if you think, oh, that's never going to happen, Watchtower is never going to remove the shunning policy, think about the two-witness rule. Tony Morris said in a video that currently is still on the Watchtower's website, JW.org, that they will never remove the two-witness rule. But is Tony Morris a governing body member anymore? Could it be, this is pure speculation on my part, that he has been removed because with all the lawsuits pouring in and all the money that they're losing because of all of these settlements and judgments against them, the time is coming when they know they're going to have to change that, when they know they're going to have to report, or it's just going to kill them financially. And now that Tony Morris is gone, couldn't they just claim that, well, that one individual ran ahead of Jehovah's chariot, or whatever kind of rationalizing they're going to use? That could very well happen. And look at all the other major doctrines and changes that you probably thought would never come about, but they're here now. So what makes you so sure that the shunning policy won't slowly fade out until it's not enforced and eventually it just disappears? I definitely think it could happen, but I do believe that Watchtower will double down and grip harder first, and that they have to take a lot more pain before they begin to back off of that. So I wouldn't hold your breath. As an EXJW, what can you do to speed the demise of the Watchtower? I do believe it's in a death spiral. I do believe they're bleeding members. I do believe that they are not in a good position financially. But what can you do to accelerate that? Well, I'll tell you what I do. Personally, everyone I have a relationship with, whether it's at work, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, they know that I used to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They know about all of the harmful doctrines, the harm to children, the covering up crime, the no blood policy, the shunning. They are fully aware of these things. I let people know that my wife is shunned by her entire family. They haven't talked to her in 7 years. I let people know. I unwitness every chance I get. So that's one thing that you can do. If you have the ability to post videos or otherwise engage with people online, doing that helps help people see what Jehovah's Witnesses are really all about. Advertise the death of the Watchtower Kingdom. Definitely do that as much as you can. That will help. If you are a PMO, if you're physically and mentally out, first of all, let me say I absolutely understand that. It is not my place to tell anyone what to do. I would never presume to do that. I am not your Lord and Master. I'm not the Watchtower. I do not think like they do. But just looking at it objectively, the more people remain physically in, even if they're mentally out, the more Watchtower thinks it's in control of a larger number of people. The more people that actually leave, whether they formally disassociate or they just leave and are no longer counted, the more Watchtower sees that it's losing its grip, and the faster the liberalization will come about because they know they have no choice if they want to hang on to people. I'm not telling you have to leave if you're PMO. I'm telling you just think about whether or not you're in a position to do so, and think about the ramifications of not doing so. It is your choice. There are pros and cons to both. There are many people who are financially tied to their family and they need that support, or otherwise need that support from their family for one reason or another. I'm just saying, if you are in the position, if you are financially secure on your own, if you have been building an outside community of support and friendship, think about it. The faster people leave, the more people leave, the faster Watchtower is going to realize they have a massive problem and they need to change. Yes, Watchtower is in a severe death spiral. That's true. How long can they last? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. Could it be decades? I don't know. It's possible, but it really depends on how much they choose to liberalize. And if they continue to go down that route where they change doctrines, they liberalize, they give witnesses more and more personal freedom, and maybe even eventually the shunning policy ends, well, then it doesn't matter anymore, does it? They're still called Jehovah's Witnesses, but they're not really Jehovah's Witnesses. Just like the Jehovah's Witnesses of today are not the Jehovah's Witnesses of yesterday when I was in, they're going to continue to go down that path or just disappear. There have been so many religions in the past that have disappeared. The Bible students don't exist anymore. The Millerites don't exist anymore. The Shakers don't exist anymore. These were at one time very popular movements, and now they're gone. The Seventh-day Adventists used to be a much bigger group than they are now. Scientology used to be a much bigger group than it is now. Now it's basically a real estate holding company with 50,000 or so members. Some are high profile for sure, but it has greatly shrunk. What is going to happen with Jehovah's Witnesses? Do you really think that their end is going to be different from the countless other religions down through history that eventually fade out and die? Of course, the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses is going to end. The question is, how soon is it going to end? It's definitely not as soon as you want, but probably sooner than you think. Well, I would love to know what you think. Do you think Watchtower is in a death spiral? Do you think that they could last on indefinitely forever? Do you think they have decades left? Do you think they only have a few years left? Do you think they're going to change things and liberalize to the point where it doesn't matter anymore? Or do you think they're inevitably just going to die off because they refuse to change? I would love to know what you think. Please leave your comments below. Don't forget to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to support me, you can click the link in the description to become a member. Or if you see the join button below the video, click that. You get some fun perks and some benefits for doing that. And it certainly helps me out. As always, I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. And thanks for watching.